Welcome to the regular meeting of the Burrillville School Committee. Happy Valentine's Day, dated February 14th, 2017, 6:15 p.m., Burrillville High School Media Center, 425 East Avenue, Harrisville, Rhode Island. We'd like to have a roll call. All members present except for Chairman Mark Brazard, who is excused. If we could please stand for a Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'll move to executive session under Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A1, personnel, non-renewal.
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Want to poll the committee?
Yes.
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 We're all in favor to move into executive session. We are now back into open session.
No votes.
No votes were taken, I'm sorry, thank you. Okay. Hmm? Oh, yeah, we need a motion here to seal the minutes, please.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we can okay, let's see, no recognition this evening. Item 5, consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the minutes of January 20th, 2017 regular meeting and the executive session also dated January 20th, 2017. I'm sorry, 10th. And included in the motion is to approve warrant number 7 for the month of January dated February 14th, 2017, in the amount of $2,441,121.09.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So now we'll go to number 6, presentations by the public to the school committee. We have a financial audit presentation from Kaya and Kasia.
Evening.
Good evening.
We're here tonight, or I'm here tonight, to talk about the audit for the year that ended June 30, 2016. I know from Robin that you've received the audited financial statements and a small communication, a 3-page communication, which I'll also be covering. And I'm happy to address any questions that you might have as we go along, so feel free to ask questions. I'm going to start first with that small communication. So it's this one that says communication with those charged with governance. Anytime we issue audited financial statements, we're required to issue this communication. And it's as it's been in the past, so really no issues during the audit. If anything came up during the audit that we thought was important for the school committee to know, this is how we would tell you. So on the first page, we talk about any new changes in the accounting regulations during the year. Wasn't anything significant as it related to the school department. The top of page 2, we talk about accounting estimates. We had no difficulties during the audit. If we have any adjusting entries that exceed the materiality threshold, we disclose them here in the financial statements. There were 2. One was the Levy Rink and one related to the grants. And those are customary. That's not unusual that we would have audit adjustments. We had no disagreements with management during the course of the audit. We did receive, as we normally do, a representation letter from management, same date as the financial statements. We're not aware that management consulted with other independent accountants or auditors. So really nothing out of the ordinary with this audit. It went as we would have expected it to. Now, in the big bound financial statement, so the one that you have will have a binding on the left-hand side. This is the culmination of the work that we did as it relates to the school department's financial statements. Right after the table of contents is our audit opinion, and it's as it's been in the past, which is unmodified or unqualified. That means that we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So again, nothing out of the ordinary. After the opinion, starting on page 4, begins the financial statements. We're required to show the school main operating fund in its own column, so that's the general fund column. And on page 4, that middle column really is all the grants. So we've summarized that into one column. But if you're interested to know about a particular grant, they are listed in the back of the report starting on page 48. So if you wanted to know how much did we spend Title I or IDEA, it's there. It's in the back of the report. So for the school general fund on page 4, you can see the biggest asset that the school general fund has is actually an amount that's due on deposit with the town, $3.5 million. And biggest liability at June 30th was accrued payroll and benefits. So the amount that we owed basically to the certified employees for the summer payrolls, $2.2 million. Page 5 Again, the general fund is in its own column, the grants are in that middle column. You can see the revenues and the expenditures of the school general fund for the year. Up top where it says revenue state source, that's the state aid that the school department receives, 13.2 million. Under expenditures, obviously the biggest expense, almost 18 million for salaries. The transfer from the town was 17.1 million. There was a $44,000 transfer to the rink, to Levy Rink. And the net change in fund balance, so the difference between revenues and expenditures, was 186,000. Now, on a budget the size of the school department, we consider that as a percentage to be basically break even. So the good news is we didn't spend more than we received, because we don't want to do that. But to have that, what that shows is a very close monitoring of expenditure line items during the year. Starting on page 6, we do show the cafeteria fund and the Levy Rink separately. So on page 6, this is the balance sheet of cafeteria fund and the rink. Cafeteria fund, biggest asset was cash, about 400,000. And at June 30th, they had unpaid bills of about 140,000, and amounts due to other funds of about 188. Levy Rink, biggest asset, cash, and very, very small liabilities. Page 7, how did those two funds do during the year? The lunch fund, or the cafeteria fund, had more revenues and expenditures of 27,000. And Levy Rink had more revenues and expenditures of 158,000. And that includes the $44,000 transfer, excuse me, from the school general fund. Page 9, some people might be surprised to see how much money we have in student activity funds in the district, 127,000. If you look at the very last page of the report, page 54, that lists every single fund and how much money actually goes through the funds during the year. So we had receipts of 370,000 and disbursements of 404,000. We've talked, if you've been on the school committee for a little while, or if you've been involved with the school department for a little while, you know that this has been an area that has been brought in-house. So previously, well, to a certain degree. I mean, it's run by the schools, but there's been a lot of internal control cleanup over this area. 2 signatures are not required on all checks, and all the information is filtered through Robin. Robin summarizes the activity, or at least reviews the summary of the activity each year before the audit. There are many footnotes. Good news is we're not going to cover most of them, but the footnotes begin on page 10. If you are interested in the pension system, we now have a pension footnote that runs so many pages, I can't even count how many pages. As you know, we've had many changes in the state pension plan, and so that the footnotes now are very lengthy as it relates to the pension plan. The governmental accounting standards now require that any liability or asset as it relates to this plan is included in the town's financial statements. So you won't see them actually included in the financial statements except in the footnotes. But that information is here. So if you want to know how much really is the Burrillville School Department funded, it's in the footnote. And really, not a lot of other things of note. In footnote number 8 on page 36, we do disclose the amount of compensated absences. That's per contract. That was 911,000 at June 30th. And I think it's in the subsequent event note. We had one on page 38. So after the financial statement date, anything that happens after June 30th that we think is significant, we're required to disclose. So we did disclose that on July 6th, the school department entered into a 5-year lease for an ice resurfacing machine, and we have there what the annual payment is. That's kind of a quick overview of the financial statements. Just a couple of management comments that we've already discussed with management. One relates to the single audit. So anytime a town receives over $750,000 in federal money, we're also required to do what's called a single audit. So it's a whole separate set of procedures just over selected federal programs. The programs we tested this year included looking at documentation for a teacher who may split their time between two different things. For example, between the grant and between just general operations, or between two grants. So the federal requirements require documentation of, I spent 2 hours on this, I spent 5 hours on this. There were some instances where that documentation just needs to be buttoned up a little bit. So that's just one finding that we had as it related to single audit. The second comment relates to, it wasn't really an issue so much on the school side as it was on the town side. You, of course, know that the school department as well as the town changed banks during this past year. And as a result of that, there were transfers from this bank to that bank. There were a couple of transfers into the school department grant checking account from the town that actually were not funds of the school department, were not grant funds. Through the reconciliation process, this was discovered. The transfer actually took almost a year to go back, to get reconciled. So that's just something, a little record keeping that needed to be reconciled. That is a quick presentation, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
seeing everyone, thank you.
Job well done.
Well, that's a credit, and I would be remiss if I didn't say what a great job Robin and her staff does. You know, as auditors, we don't typically give praise. We're typically critical. That's what we do. But Robin and her staff does a really great job.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, move now down to public comment. Is there anyone out there that would like to make a comment or anything to the school committee? No? Okay, hearing none. Item 8, personnel, appointments, leaves of absence, retirements, and resignations.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the following retirements with regret. Lisa Silvestri, reading specialist at Callahan, effective February 10th, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I know I taught with Lisa for when she first came to Levy School, and it was nice to see her work up to the reading specialist. And she's done a real nice job from what I can remember. I wish her well and as good a health as possible for good long retirement. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay. Leaves of absence.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the following leave of absence. Nicole Gilson, grade 4 teacher, William L. Callahan School, 30 days at the beginning of the school year 17/18. And Kelsey Hopkins, special ed teacher, William L. Callahan, from the start of the school year through 11/24/2017.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carries. Appointments.
Make a motion to approve the following appointments. Natalie Holton, temporary substitute TA at Levy, effective immediately through the end of the 2016.
Excuse me. I hear you a revised sheet.
Sorry.
If you please, could you start that again?
Absolutely. My apologies. All right, take 2. I make a motion to approve the following appointments. Natalie Holton, temporary TA, Levy, effective immediately through the end of the 2016-2017 school year. Michael Coggeshall, morning supervisor, 0.5 hours a day, $20 an hour. Ashley May, student council advisor at BMS, $600 shared and prorated. And Steve Machino, student council advisor, BMS, $600 shared and prorated.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Appointments. Athletics.
I'll make a motion to approve the following athletic appointments. Peter Fiorentino, baseball assistant coach at BHS, $1,735. Jonathan Heon, girls hockey assistant, BHS, volunteer. Spencer Webb, baseball assistant at Burrillville High School, volunteer. Tyler Loynes, baseball assistant, BHS, volunteer. Ronald Brissett, baseball assistant, BHS, volunteer. Christopher Toddy, baseball assistant, BHS, volunteer. And Travis Parr, wrestling assistant, BHS, volunteer.
Upon appropriate receipt of paperwork.
Upon appropriate receipt of paperwork.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we also have, yeah, I'm looking for that one.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to renew the following teacher. Megan Lowell, position is the Transition Learning Center teacher at the William L. Callahan School.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have, let's see, we're going to old business. FY 17 Burrillville School Department Budget Update.
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor to open?
Aye.
Aye.
You have before you a list of transfers in between various maintenance line items. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the transfers as requested.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the transfers?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Okay, FY 17 rink budget update.
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion and a second to open. All in favor?
Aye.
No transfers are recommended, it's for informational purposes.
Okay, policy 5410, substitute employees revised, second reading.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve policy 5410, substitute employee, revised second reading, and dispense with the reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion? No? Yeah, okay, the ayes have it. Number 10, superintendent's report.
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What you have before you is a memorandum of agreement, which I'm going to ask you to approve. This memorandum of agreement was the result of teachers at the middle school who received classes that resulted in more than 3 preparation periods. It was a schedule similar to what some teachers had last year. However, the union contested the fact that teachers should not have more than 3 prep periods. That is true according to the contract language. However, they agreed not to file a grievance, and the agreement resulted in any teacher who wanted to teach more than 3 preps would come forward and sign a voluntary form. So moving forward in the future, there'll be no questions. If a teacher wanted to come forward to have more than 3 preparation periods, they would sign the voluntary form, which you have a copy of, which would resolve the issue that was presented this current school year. So I would recommend that you approve that memorandum of agreement and the voluntary form.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the Burrillville Teachers Association and the Burrillville School Committee, and also to approve the form for the extra preparation volunteer.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 11, administrative reports.
Mr. Chair. Excuse me. Motion to receive and file with a big thank you to all administrators and staff and students for all the great educational information, art, sports, and other projects presented in all the reports.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 12, reports of school committee subcommittees. I'm sorry, was there anything else in your report, Dr.
No.
Fenelon? Moving right along here. Okay, thank you. Okay, reports of school committee subcommittee, sick bank committee. I can report on that when the sick bank met on January 23rd, 2017, and request by 2 certified staff members were granted. Okay, moving on, 13, correspondence and communication, there are none. Number 14, new business, procedure, 7414 ice rink.
I can speak to that.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
motion to open.
Motion to approve. Would you like to open that?
I think he wants to talk.
Motion to open.
Second.
Motion to open and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The second sheet that you have there, 7414.1, are the penalties associated with any rink infractions. And what I did in reviewing that policy, I combined the tobacco, alcohol, and illegal substances, and included 4 offenses under those categories. And I added a new category, which is inappropriate, unacceptable behavior with 4 consequences associated with that. Additionally, I've also added an appeal process. The reason for this was that we had a situation at the rink where there was unacceptable behavior by an individual, but we had nothing in the policy that spoke to unacceptable behavior. As you could see in the sheet that you have, it only speaks to tobacco and alcohol and use of illegal substances. So if an individual is penalized at the rink under those offenses that you have listed before you, they also have an appeal process. The first appeal is to the facilities director, the next appeal is to the superintendent, and the final appeal is to the school committee. So I would recommend approval of a first reading of those rink policy.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the revised policy P7414-1 ice rink and dispense with the reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval of homeschool applications.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve homeschool application as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Robotics team request, funding.
I can speak to that.
Motion to open.
Second.
Again, the robotics team won a state championship. They're going to the super regional competition in March 16th through the 19th. They're currently having fundraising to offset their expenses. The last time this occurred, the school committee approved an amount of $800 to pay for the vans and transportation to Pennsylvania. And I would recommend that the school committee consider approving the $800 again for the vans to transport the team to Pennsylvania.
Excuse me, may I ask a question? We've approved that $800 in the past. Do you think that the price of the transportation has gone up? Do you think that a motion would be appropriate to approve the payment for transportation?
You can make a motion in an amount not to exceed $1,000. That would be fair.
That's what I had in mind. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the application for the robotics team request for funding to pay for transportation not to exceed $1,000.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 15, committee on agenda items. Any comments on agenda items? Okay, hearing none. Pending issues, field house renovation dedication. I'm working on the bullets on that one. Staff Appreciation Night, and School Bus Employee Appreciation. I'm assuming just being worked on at this
Correct.
time. Okay. Item 17.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you very much, and thank you for everyone out there for coming, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone.